Hi all. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. My name is Amira, and today I wanted to talk about 5 ways that you can get more use out of your makeup collection. Some of these are things that I have done over the years myself, and they're also things that I've sort of been deciding to implement recently. So let's get into it. So, number 1 is doing a weekly eyeshadow challenge. This is something that I started doing in 2018, 2019, when I was really having a lot of new makeup come into my collection. And I had so many eyeshadow palettes and I wanted to use them all. But I wanted to sort of form an opinion on the palettes that I was using, because at that point I would use one palette and then I'd switch to another palette and then I switched to another palette, and I kind of just had surface interactions with the makeup that I was purchasing. So I decided to start doing weekly eyeshadow challenges. And what that entailed was me taking one palette and only using that one palette for 1 week straight. The last time I did this was with the Natasha Denona Zindo palette in June of last year. One thing that I love about it is that it allows you to form an opinion about a palette. It allows you to really get in there, get your hands messy, and figure out certain looks that you enjoy. You can experiment with texture and color combos, and it forces you to be more creative because you are really sort of stuck with these parameters. For me, I find having parameters like that for short intervals is very creatively inspiring. For short intervals, I've done a 1-month eyeshadow palette challenge, and if that's something that you think you could be down with, I say go for it. For me, after about a week and a half, I felt kind of stifled and I was just really kind of bored and wanted to branch out. I know in my own makeup personality, a week is like just what I can do. When I did that with the Zindo palette, as much as I enjoy using that palette, by the end of the week I was pretty bored. But I had also created a bunch of looks that I really liked, and I really knew how I felt about that palette. I had formed a solid opinion about it, which is why when I did my declutter, it survived it, because I knew about what it was and that I enjoyed using it. So yeah, I say weekly eyeshadow palette challenges can be a great way to acquaint yourself with, or reacquaint yourself. Maybe it's a palette that you've had for a while that you used to use all the time. Bring it back. Start using it for a week or so and see if you still love it. And it will sort of either make you fall back in love with it, or you'll go, you know what, why am I holding on to this? I don't enjoy it anymore, and you can get rid of it. Number 2 is something that I've done a couple of times, and it always seems to help, is when you reorganize your makeup collection. Now, what I mean by that is it's sort of similar to decluttering in the sense of you get to see everything that you own, and you sort of can look at things that get pushed to the back of a drawer or pushed to the back on your makeup vanity that you want to bring to the forefront, or you want your makeup to be more focused on complexion. So maybe instead of your desk being taken up, or your vanity be taken up by, eyeshadow palettes and lipsticks, you want to organize it in a way so that the first thing you see and the first thing you touch are your foundations. For me, reorganizing has helped a ton. I like to keep things covered, like in drawers, but I like them to be clear so that I can see everything. Eyeshadows, I have them sort of in multiple places because my place is so small and my space for that kind of storage, and that's the thing that I own the most of. That's a bit more hodgepodge, but I still have it organized to a way where I have things on my makeup desk that I want to reach for constantly, or that I want in the forefront of my mind, or on the desk, and the things that I want to protect or that are special are in drawers on their own. And then I have drawers for palettes that maybe don't get used as much, but they're organized enough where I know where they are. So I say, if you've had your makeup organized a certain way and you're feeling a little bored, you're feeling a little stifled, mix it up, change things around, and pull out the things that you maybe haven't used in a while that you want to use, but because you can't see them, sort of out of sight, out of mind, move those to the forefront. And pair it with the weekly eyeshadow palette challenge. Pull out those eyeshadow palettes that you forgot about or that you don't use very much and put those at the front of your desk and maybe go through each one, because now you can see them. Number 3 is another project that I recently did, and I filmed it and put it on the channel. So I will either leave a link below or I'll put a card up, and that is depotting your palettes. Now, this is not for everyone, and I say don't depot. If you've never depotted a palette, don't depot things that aren't easily depotted. I am not an expert at depotting things at all. I had a few casualties when I did it, but I chose to depot palettes that are meant to be depotted. Like, you can move them around, they're magnetic. So I depotted all of my 9-pan monochromatic ColourPop palettes. And what I did is I went through each one and I picked out the shades that I liked, that I knew I would want to use, and I got rid of all the rest. And I got rid of the actual like plastic palettes themselves. What that did was free up a ton of room for me in my makeup collection and storage, but it also sort of reintroduced me to those palettes and it reacquainted me with the shades that I love from those palettes. And now, since I've depotted them, I'm actually using those eyeshadows more because they're all in one place in a big palette. They're sort of color coordinated in like a nice little gradient. When I open it up, I can see all of them and I can say, hey, I want to use like one of these and pull something else from another palette, or I can create an entire look using just that. And I've done that on the channel as well. So I say, if you have palettes that you know can be depotted and you're not in love with all of the shades, but you're in love with some of the shades, and you want to sort of like make sure you get some use, or just give yourself some inspiration and sort of shake loose the cobwebs, so to speak, of using those shadows, depot them and put them all in a palette so you can see them all. And it does sort of recalibrate the way you look at them and the way you think about them, because now when I pull that giant palette out, I'm like, ooh, as opposed to when I pull out all of those, you know, plastic palettes, I was sort of like, they were just kind of in the way while I was getting to other things. Or I would forget what shades I loved in them because there were so many of them. Now I know exactly which ones I love from them because I kept the ones that I loved from them and got rid of all the clutter. Number 4 is an obvious one, I think, and I did this recently on my channel, is do a declutter. Seriously, do a declutter. It helps. It helps so much. I do declutters twice a year. I do it at the 6-month mark, at the beginning of the year and at the middle of the year. And I enjoy doing them, even if it's a small declutter. It just helps because you get rid of things that are taking up space or that are blocking from your view things that you love and that you've forgotten about. It just helps. It helps keep your collection manageable so you're not feeling so overwhelmed. It helps move out things that are expired, things that you just don't use anymore. And every time I do a declutter, I am reacquainted with my collection and I get more excited about the things that I own, and I start pulling other things out. Since I've done my declutter, I've been using eyeshadow palettes I haven't used in a while. I've been using foundation I haven't used in a while, blushes, eyeliners, all of it. And it's been a lot of fun. And that happens every time I do a declutter. When I get out the superfluous stuff and I'm sort of left with the things that I really want to keep, because if you're asking yourself hard, you know, if you're being honest with yourself while you're decluttering, you're going to get rid of the things that are meh for you. And the reason why I do twice a year as opposed to once a year is if there's something that I am kind of iffy about, I give myself that time, that 6-month window. Okay, I'm going to keep this, but if I haven't used it in 6 months, it gotta go. So I think that's sort of an easy, sort of less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less painful way to declutter, as opposed to decluttering every month or decluttering once a year, which can feel very overwhelming. Like when people do these huge declutters once a year, I'm always like, oh, that just gives me anxiety. I don't know about you guys, but that gives me anxiety. But if I do it every 6 months and I know it's coming around, sometimes I'll look at something and be like, I think you're gonna go at this next declutter. And if I don't use it by the next declutter, I've sort of made my peace with that and it gets chucked. So yeah, do a declutter. It will just sort of, again, rejigger the way your brain is looking at and thinking about your makeup collection. And finally, create a weekly or a monthly makeup capsule. Now, a lot of people on YouTube do this. I know that, I believe it's Kelly Gooch, and I believe Amanda Z also does this. And I was doing this for quite a while. I've since stopped since I started my channel because I've just been using things all over the place, and I'm okay with that. I might go back to a weekly or monthly makeup capsule. I don't know. I'm gonna allow myself sort of a break from that. But I think they're fantastic. And similar to the weekly palette challenge, what it does is that it allows you to curate a full face of makeup that you can use for a month or a week, and you get use out of those items and you get acquainted with them, and it gives you a really great opinion on those products, and you will know if you love them or not, or if you're indifferent to them. And that will help you make choices when you do your declutters, you know? But it's a great way to get use out of things. If you have a foundation that you like or love, but you just don't use, put it in a makeup capsule. Use it for 1 month or 1 week straight. You'll get a ton of use out of it, and you'll know how you feel about it for real by the end of that time. I tend to do monthly makeup capsules where I pick only complexion products to use, or I'll pick a foundation and a concealer and a powder, and I'll pick a mascara, which is usually a mascara for me. I use the same mascara for 3 months, and then I get rid of it and I start something else up. That's what I try to do. Right now I've got like 2 or 3 mascaras that are open, which is usually more than I like, but that's where I'm at right now. But for the most part, I'm sticking to the main mascara that I have, I normally use. I've been using that one pretty consistently. But that's what I do. I pick a foundation. If you use primer, pick a primer, pick a setting spray, pick a bronzer. If you're someone who doesn't own a lot of blush, or that you love mixing up your blushes, you may not want to do that. But if you only own a few blushes and you want to get use out of them, pick a blush. And you know what your base makeup is going to look like, and you don't have to think about it for a week or a month. And then you can roll it out, Some people add eyeshadow palettes to that. I say if you're doing the weekly eyeshadow palette challenge, why not just make it a makeup capsule? And then that way at the end of the week, you can swap everything out and do something new. And same goes for the month, You can keep your monthly complexion items, and then each week swipe out an eyeshadow palette, I think that's a really great way and fun way to use your makeup and to get use out of your makeup. Now, one thing I do want to talk about are project pans, because I know a lot of people are huge proponents of project pans, and I've done project pans. I've enjoyed the project pans that I've done. For me right now, I don't necessarily feel like project pans are the best way to get use out of your makeup overall. Now, I think they're great when you're doing sort of a concentrated, I need to use these things up. I want them out of my collection. I don't want to declutter them, but I want to use them up. I think if that's the mindset that you have, then a project pan is fantastic for that. I've done that with foundations. I've done it with bronzers. I've done it with powders. For me, I tend to do project pans for things like that, where they're things that I use regularly, that I know that I will almost always be part of my routine. I don't generally do them for eyeshadow palettes or lipsticks or things like that, because for me, I'm not necessarily trying to pan an eyeshadow palette. If I'm adamant about a palette not working for me, I'll just declutter it. And I think that's important. If you do decide to do a project pan, pick things that you will enjoy using. Some people pick things that they don't like, but they just want to work their way through. I've made that mistake as well, and you wind up crapping out on it. You wind up like going, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And then you kind of feel like you failed at it. Don't do that. Pick things that you like or love, that you're willing to, that you want to work through and that you want to use. Don't pick things that you hate, that you probably regret buying, but you're like, I just want to get through it. I did that with a few things. I did it with, and this is a prime example of what I mean of crapping out when you're doing that with things that you don't like. Perfect example is me and the MAC Pink Pot. I hate it. I own it. I bought it. I was trying to work my way through it. I was pretty consistent with using it. I got to pan. I could see the little pan and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. But I used that probably far longer than I should have because I wasn't enjoying it. And it made it feel like a chore. I feel like when you're using things that you enjoy, it's not going to feel like a chore. You're just going to keep using them, and then one day you know, it's gone. Those are my feelings about project pans, as I feel like they work if you are looking to sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? You're looking to sort of hone in on specific products that you want to finish. I don't necessarily think it works if you're trying to like, I want to pan some eyeshadow palettes. Like, okay, but what's the likelihood of you being okay with only using that one palette for 6 months? You know what I mean? Like, and if that's something that you feel like you can do and you want to challenge yourself, I say go for it. But with project pans, the three main criteria for me and the advice that I give people who are asking about them is pick things that you like, be honest with yourself, and I say reassess. Reassess. Don't do, I would say all of the project pans that I've done have been what are called rolling project pans, where I get to a point and I reassess my list of things. I'm realistic. And when I say realistic, I mean not only picking things that you like, but also how many items you choose to pan. Some people are like, I'm gonna pan 20 items this year. If you are an OG panner, you can probably do that with no problem. But if you are not an OG panner, you are setting yourself up for failure and disappointment. Pick a handful of things that you like, that you know that you will be able to use on a daily basis and be okay with using, and you'll have more success that way. But that's what I mean by being realistic about what you're gonna do when it comes to a project pan. And a rolling project pan is a great way to sort of give yourself an out, so to speak. So if you're using something you thought you were gonna love and you've used it for 3 months and you're like, you know what, I'm done, take it out of the project pan. Do reassess in 3 months, you know, and swap it out. I think that is the most successful way to do a project pan. All right, guys, and those are my 5 tips for getting more use out of your collection, along with my little rant about project pans, or my advice section about project pans. Let me know in the comments, have you done any of these things? Are you considering doing any of these things to get more use out of your collection? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you liked this video, please be sure to like, and if you are not subscribed, please be sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.